The galaxy had always seen humans as weak. When Earth joined the Galactic Council in 2247, the other alien races barely paid attention. The humans had small ships, old weapons, and no real power. The Council members thought Earth would be easy to control, maybe even easy to conquer someday. They were very wrong about that. Admiral Kevin Price stood in a secret command center deep in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond where any alien spy could see. He looked at the massive construction happening outside his window and smiled. For 30 years, humanity had been building something the galaxy had never seen before. They called it Project Titan, and it was almost ready. The project was simple but huge. Humans were building warships the size of planets. Not small ships that looked big, real ships that measured over 12,000 kilometers across. Each one was larger than Earth itself. The aliens had no idea this was happening. Commander Lisa Grant walked into the command center holding a data pad. She was in charge of building the first ship, which everyone called Gibraltar. She looked tired but happy. "The hull is 98% complete," she reported to Kevin. "We can finish in 2 more months." Kevin nodded. Gibraltar was made from compressed neutronium alloy, a material so strong that nothing in the galaxy could break through it. Human scientists had invented it by studying collapsed stars. The aliens thought humans were decades away from this kind of technology. They were wrong about that too. Captain Henry Blake managed all the mining operations across the solar system. Ships went back and forth from Ceres, Europa, and Titan, carrying materials for the project. But on all the official records, these mining ships were just doing normal business. Corporate companies ran them. Trading stations bought their cargo. Nobody suspected the truth. "We moved another 1,000,000 tons of raw materials today," Henry reported during the daily meeting. "The Thelonian trade inspector didn't even look twice at our manifests." The aliens were easy to fool because they thought they were smarter than humans. They saw what they expected to see. Mining operations looked normal, so they must be normal. This mistake would cost them everything. Dr. Nicole Foster worked in the weapons research lab deep inside Gibraltar. She was building something called gravity disruptors. These weapons could create tiny black holes that would rip enemy ships apart. The aliens thought this technology was impossible. Nicole had proven them wrong 3 years ago. "The latest test exceeded our projections by 40%, Nicole told Kevin during her weekly briefing. "When we fire these weapons at full power, there won't be anything left of enemy ships except atoms." Lieutenant Jacob Morris ran the security operations. His job was to make sure nobody found out about Project Titan. He controlled a network of sensors and satellites that watched for any alien spies. He also managed the cloaking technology that hid the planet ships from every scanner in the galaxy. "We had a close call yesterday," Jacob reported. "A Vorlax scout ship came within 1,000,000 kilometers of Gibraltar, but the cloak held perfectly. They passed right by without detecting anything. The cloaking technology came from an alien probe that crashed on Mars 20 years ago. Earth reported finding the wreck to the Council, but they kept quiet about the working cloaking device inside. Human engineers spent years figuring out how it worked. Now they had built cloaking fields big enough to hide ships the size of planets. By 2283, humanity had finished building 5 planet ships. Gibraltar patrolled near Neptune. Bulwark floated near Uranus. Sentinel watched from beyond Pluto. Aegis circled near Saturn. And Olympus, the 5th and most secret ship, stayed hidden in the darkest part of the Kuiper Belt where even human records didn't mention it. Each ship was a complete world unto itself. Inside Gibraltar, there were entire cities where 50 million people lived and worked. There were farms growing food under artificial sunlight, factories building weapons and ships, schools teaching children, hospitals caring for the sick, parks where families walked on weekends. It was a planet that could move and fight. Captain Susan Hayes commanded Gibraltar's military operations. She had trained for 15 years for this job. Every day she ran combat drills with her crew. They practiced firing the weapons, dodging attacks, and coordinating with the other planet ships. They were ready for war even though war hadn't come yet. "How long do you think we can keep this secret?" Susan asked Kevin one evening in the officers' mess hall. Kevin sipped his coffee and looked out at the stars. "As long as we need to. But secrets this big don't stay hidden forever. Someone will threaten Earth eventually. And when they do, the whole galaxy is going to get a very big surprise." The Galactic Council met every month on the neutral world of Vex Prime. Ambassador Claire Bennett represented Earth at these meetings. She listened to the other aliens talk about their military strength. their territorial claims and their casual contempt for younger species like humanity. She said nothing. She just smiled and took notes. The Krell Empire was the worst. They controlled hundreds of star systems through military force. Their ships were everywhere. Their soldiers were brutal. They had destroyed 3 species in the last century, just because those species refused to surrender. The Krell thought they were unstoppable. Ambassador Vexthor of the Krell liked to mock Claire during council sessions. He would make jokes about how weak humans were, how easy it would be to conquer Earth, how humanity should be grateful the Krell allowed them to exist. Claire always smiled politely and said nothing. She knew something Vexthor didn't know. Back on Earth, President Andrew Carter met with his military advisors in the secure bunker beneath Geneva. Holographic displays showed the positions of all 5 planet ships. Everything was ready. How soon before we can bring them out of hiding? The president asked. We can deploy all 4 public ships within 6 hours of your order, Kevin replied. Olympus will remain hidden as our reserve force. And if the council demands we disarm? Kevin smiled. Then we politely refuse. What are they going to do about it? Send their fleets against us? We could destroy every military ship in the galaxy in less than a week. President Carter nodded slowly. The decision to build the planet ships had been controversial. Many people thought it was too aggressive, too dangerous. But others remembered Earth's history. They remembered what happened to the weak when the strong came calling. They remembered that peace only lasted when you were strong enough to defend it. The Krell are moving more ships toward our borders, the intelligence officer reported. Their fleet strength in our sector has increased 30% in the last month. Everyone in the room understood what that meant. The Krell were preparing for something. Maybe they were planning to attack. Maybe they were just trying to intimidate Earth into making concessions. Either way, the time for hiding was almost over. Admiral Kevin Price returned to his station in the Kuiper Belt and looked at Gibraltar hanging in space outside his window. The massive ship gleamed in the distant sunlight. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Humanity had built 5 of them in complete secrecy. Soon the galaxy would learn the truth. The prey had become the predator, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Krell battleship entered Earth orbit on a cold morning in March 2284. It was huge, nearly 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor. Behind it came an entire fleet. Hundreds of warships filled the space around Earth like a swarm of angry insects. They had come to deliver a message. Ambassador Vexthor stood before the United Earth Assembly in New York. His scaled skin reflected the lights of the chamber. His eyes looked at the human leaders with barely hidden contempt. He had delivered ultimatums to dozens of species before. Most of them surrendered immediately. The rest died quickly. The Krell Empire has decided that humanity controls too much territory, Vexthor announced. His voice was cold and hard. You will surrender 70% of your colonies. You will submit to Krell governance. You will pay us tribute every year. Resources, technology, and workers. You have 1 month to agree. President Andrew Carter sat in his chair and listened without expression. Around him, other government leaders shifted nervously. Some looked angry, some looked scared, but Carter remained calm. He had been waiting for this moment for years. And if we refuse? Carter asked quietly. Vexthor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then we will burn your homeworld to ashes. We will sterilize every colony. We will erase humanity from the galaxy. You have seen what we did to the Sithari. You know we are not bluffing. The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered the Sithari. They had refused a Krell ultimatum 10 years ago. Now their homeworld was a dead rock, its atmosphere stripped away by Krell weapons. 3 billion Sithari had died in a single day. We need time to discuss this, Carter said. 2 months. 1 month, Vexthor snapped. Not a single day more. Choose wisely, humans. Your species hangs in the balance. The Krell ambassador left, and the chamber erupted in shouting. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight even though they thought fighting was hopeless. Nobody except President Carter knew the truth. Carter returned to the secret command bunker and activated the secure channel to Admiral Kevin Price. It's time, Carter said simply. Kevin had been expecting this call. Understood, Mr. President. Initiating deployment protocols now. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, the 5 planet ships received their orders. Gibraltar, Bulwark, Sentinel, and Aegis began moving toward Earth. Their massive engines pushed them through space faster than anything that size should be able to move. Olympus remained hidden, watching and waiting. Captain Susan Hayes stood on Gibraltar's bridge and watched her crew work. Everyone moved with purpose and confidence. They had trained for this day for years. Now it was finally here. "Engineering, give me a status report," Susan ordered. "All systems are operating at peak efficiency," Engineer Ryan Cooper replied from his station. "The cloak is holding steady. We'll arrive at Earth in 26 days. Commander Lisa Grant monitored the tactical displays. The Krell fleet had taken up position in high orbit around Earth. They were arranged in a classic bombardment formation. When the deadline expired, they would start firing at the planet's surface. Standard Krell procedure. "They have 3,000 ships," Lisa said, "including 2 planet killers with atmospheric incinerators." "It won't be enough," Susan replied calmly. "Not even close." On Earth, General Frank Miller commanded the conventional defense forces. His ships were old and outdated compared to Krell technology. Everyone knew it. But his job wasn't to win the battle. His job was to make the Krell think Earth was desperately trying to defend itself with everything it had. "Deploy all available ships," Frank ordered. "I want every destroyer, every cruiser, every fighter we have in orbit. Make it look like we're throwing everything we have at them." Earth's fleet numbered maybe 400 ships. They formed up around the planet, their weapons armed, their shields raised. To the Krell, it looked exactly like a desperate last stand. They had no idea it was all theater. Admiral Krellvix commanded the Krell fleet from his flagship, the Devastator. He watched the human ships assemble and laughed. 400 ships against 3,000. It would be a massacre. The humans had to know they couldn't win, but they were going to fight anyway. How pointless. "Maintain position," Krellvix ordered his fleet. "Let them see our power. Let them understand how hopeless their situation is. Maybe they'll surrender before the deadline and save us the ammunition." But the humans didn't surrender. Every day, President Carter appeared on the news broadcasts looking calm and confident. He told the people of Earth not to panic. He said everything was under control. Most people thought he was lying to keep them calm. They didn't know he was telling the truth. Dr. Nicole Foster worked around the clock in Gibraltar's weapons labs. She ran final tests on the gravity disruptors. The weapons had performed perfectly in simulations, but this would be their first real combat test. She wanted to make sure everything was ready. "The targeting systems are locked in," Nicole reported to Captain Susan Hayes. "We have firing solutions for every Krell ship. When we drop the cloak, we can start shooting immediately." Lieutenant Jacob Morris monitored all communications between the Krell ships. The aliens were confident. They talked openly about how they would divide up Earth's colonies after the humans surrendered. Some of them were already arguing about who would get which planets. "They have no idea we're coming," Jacob told Admiral Kevin Price. "Their sensors haven't detected anything unusual. As far as they know, we only have those 400 old ships." "Perfect," Kevin replied. "Let them stay confident. Confident enemies make mistakes." Captain Henry Blake commanded Sentinel, which was approaching from a different angle than the other ships. His job was to cut off the Krell retreat when the battle started. He watched his navigation displays and calculated arrival times. "We'll be in position 12 hours before the deadline expires," Henry reported. "Right where we need to be." As the days passed, tension on Earth grew higher. People stockpiled food and water. Some fled to underground shelters. Others simply waited and prayed. The news showed constant images of the Krell fleet hanging over the planet like a sword ready to fall. Ambassador Claire Bennett remained at the United Nations dealing with panicked calls from other council species. Some offered to mediate. Others suggested that Earth should just surrender and save lives. A few quietly offered asylum to human refugees if Earth fell. "Thank you for your concern," Claire told each of them politely. "But Earth will handle this situation ourselves." With 3 days left until the deadline, the 4 planet ships reached their positions around Earth. They stayed cloaked, invisible to every sensor. The Krell fleet floated in the center of a perfect trap and didn't know it. President Carter gave the final authorization codes to Admiral Kevin Price. "You are cleared to engage at your discretion," Carter said. "Show them what we've built." "With pleasure, Mr. President," Kevin replied. On the last day, just hours before the deadline, Admiral Krelvik sent his final message to Earth. "Your time is up, humans. Surrender now or face extinction. This is your last chance." President Andrew Carter appeared on every screen across Earth and throughout the Krell fleet. He looked directly at the camera, his expression calm and cold. "Ambassador Vexthor, Admiral Krelvix, and all Krell forces. Your demands are rejected, however. We would like to make you a counteroffer. Leave our system immediately and we will allow you to survive." The Krell bridge erupted in laughter. Krelvix could barely breathe. He was laughing so hard. The humans had lost their minds. They were about to be destroyed and they were making threats. "Foolish humans," Krelvik said, still laughing. "You have chosen death. All ships, prepare to commence bombardment. Target their major cities first. Let them watch their world burn." The Krell weapons began charging. Power levels rose across the fleet. In 60 seconds, they would open fire. That's when Admiral Kevin Price gave the order that changed everything. "All ships, drop cloaking fields. Show them what we built in the dark." 4 massive objects materialized around the Krell fleet. Each one was larger than any moon, bigger than most planets. Their surfaces bristled with thousands of weapon emplacements. Their hulls glowed with barely contained power. They appeared, so suddenly and so close that several Krell ships collided with each other trying to avoid them. On the Devastator's bridge, every alarm started screaming at once. Sensors went crazy trying to process what they were detecting. Officers shouted in panic. Admiral Krelvix stared at the tactical display and felt his blood turn to ice. "What are those things?" he whispered. Commander Lisa Grant smiled from her station on Gibraltar. "They're about to find out," she said. The Krell fleet scattered like fish when a shark appears. Ships turned in every direction, their pilots panicking. Several destroyers crashed into each other in their rush to escape. Explosions lit up the space around Earth as damaged vessels lost containment. And the 4 planet ships hadn't even fired yet. Captain Susan Hayes stood calmly on Gibraltar's bridge and watched the chaos. Her crew remained focused, their hands steady on their controls. They had practiced this moment 1,000 times in simulations. Now it was real. "All weapons platforms online," reported the weapons officer. "Gravity disruptors are charged and ready." "Target the battleships first," Susan ordered. "Show them what real power looks like." Admiral Kevin Price watched from his command center as all 4 planet ships prepared to fire. He felt no joy in what was about to happen. War was never something to celebrate, but the Krell had come here to destroy Earth. Now they would learn that humanity was no longer prey. "Commence firing," Kevin said quietly. The gravity disruptors activated across all 4 ships. The weapons made no sound in space, but their effects were devastating. Invisible waves of twisted gravity reached out toward the Krell fleet. When they hit the first battleship, the results were immediate. The Krell vessel simply came apart. Its hull bent in impossible directions, then tore like paper. Its internal structure collapsed, crushing the crew inside. Then the whole ship exploded as its fusion cores lost containment. The entire process took less than 3 seconds. Where a mighty battleship had been, now there was only expanding debris and radiation. 11 more battleships died in the next 10 seconds. Commander Lisa Grant coordinated the targeting. Each planet ship focused on a different section of the Krell fleet. The gravity disruptors fired in rotation, giving the weapons time to recharge between shots. But with thousands of weapon platforms across 4 ships, the rate of fire was devastating. "They're trying to return fire," reported the tactical officer. Krell weapons lit up the darkness as hundreds of ships fired everything they had at Gibraltar. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, railguns, and energy beams. Enough firepower to destroy a normal fleet 10 times over. All of it slammed into Gibraltar's shields. Engineer Ryan Cooper watched his displays. Shields holding at 98%. "Their weapons can't even scratch us." The compressed neutronium hull beneath the shields was even stronger. A normal ship might survive a few hits from Krell weapons. Gibraltar could endure years of constant bombardment without taking significant damage. The other planet ships were equally tough. Admiral Krelvix watched his fleet die around him. Ships exploded every few seconds. His proud armada, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being torn apart by weapons they couldn't even see. His tactical display showed ship after ship going dark. "Retreat!" Krelvix screamed. "All ships retreat to the jump point. Emergency escape protocols." But Captain Henry Blake had been waiting for that order. Sentinel moved to block the nearest jump point, its massive bulk filling space. Any ship that tried to escape that direction would have to go through or around a planet-sized obstacle. And the gravity disruptors had excellent range. "No escape that way," Henry said calmly. He gave the order to fire, and another wave of Krell ships died. Lieutenant Jacob Morris monitored all Krell communications. Their command structure was breaking down. Officers were screaming contradictory orders. Some ships tried to surrender. Others tried to fight. Most just tried to run. It didn't matter. The planet ships tracked them all. Dr. Nicole Foster watched her weapons perform beyond even her best predictions. The gravity disruptors were achieving a 99% hit rate. Every shot destroyed its target completely. Years of theoretical work had paid off in the most dramatic way possible. "We've destroyed over 1,500 ships," Nicole reported, approximately half their fleet. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 23 minutes. The 4 planet ships worked with mechanical precision, eliminating threat after threat. The Krell fleet that had come to burn Earth was reduced to scattered debris and expanding clouds of gas. General Frank Miller watched from Earth's surface. His conventional fleet hadn't fired a single shot. They hadn't needed to. The planet ships had done everything. "Recall all our ships," Frank ordered. "Get them clear of the battlefield. No point risking our people when the fight is already over." Admiral Krelvix sat in his command chair on the Devastator and watched his fleet die. Over 2,000 ships lost, hundreds of thousands of Krell warriors dead, and the humans hadn't even used their conventional fleet. They had just brought out 4 massive ships that nobody knew existed and crushed the Krell like insects. "Sir, we must retreat," his second officer pleaded. "If we stay, we'll die too." Krelvix wanted to keep fighting. Pride demanded it. But staying would achieve nothing except his own death. He had to survive to warn the Empire about what humanity had built. "All remaining ships follow the Devastator," Krelvix ordered. "Maximum speed to the secondary jump point." The Devastator and about 200 surviving ships turned and ran. Their engines pushed far beyond safe limits as they desperately tried to escape. Behind them, the 4 planet ships hung in space like silent judges. Admiral Kevin Price watched the Krell run. He could order the planet ships to pursue and destroy them all. It would be easy, but he had a different plan. "Let them go," Kevin ordered, "but damage the Devastator's engines first. I want them to limp home slowly. I want them to have time to think about what happened here." Gibraltar fired one more time. The shot was perfectly calculated, hitting the Devastator's engine section hard enough to cripple the faster-than-light drive without destroying the ship. The Krell flagship shuddered and slowed, unable to jump to safety. "They'll need months to reach Krell space now," Commander Lisa Grant reported. "Months of knowing they failed completely." Captain Susan Hayes opened a communication channel to the Devastator. Admiral Krelvix's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of rage and fear. "Admiral Krelvix, this is Captain Susan Hayes of the Earth Defense Platform Gibraltar. You came here expecting to destroy us. Instead, you found that humanity is no longer weak. We built these ships in secret. We prepared for this day, and now your fleet is destroyed." Krelvix said nothing. What could he say? "You will return to your empire," Susan continued. "You will tell them what happened here. You will explain that any species that threatens humanity will face the same fate. We are not conquerors. We do not seek to rule others. But we will defend ourselves with overwhelming force. Do you understand?" Krelvix's jaw tightened, but he nodded slowly. "Good, now go. And be grateful we let you live." The communication ended. The Devastator and the surviving Krell ships limped away from Earth, their once mighty fleet reduced to barely 200 damaged vessels. They would spend the next 3 months crawling home, knowing that every second could be their last if humanity changed its mind. On Earth, people poured into the streets celebrating. They had seen the Krell fleet arrive. They had feared for their lives, and then they had watched 4 massive ships appear and save them. The celebrations would last for weeks. President Andrew Carter addressed the planet from the White House. His message was broadcast across Earth and throughout the galaxy. Today, Humanity revealed that we are no longer the weak newcomers the galaxy thought we were. We built these defensive platforms in secret because we knew that in this galaxy the weak are preyed upon. We refuse to be prey, but we also refuse to become predators. These ships exist to protect, not to conquer, to defend, not to attack. We hope the galaxy learns from what happened here today. Ambassador Claire Bennett prepared to return to the Galactic Council. She knew the next session would be very different from previous ones. The council members had watched the battle. They had seen what humanity could do. Everything had changed. Admiral Kevin Price ordered the 4 planet ships to take up positions around Earth. They would stay visible now, no longer hiding. Let the galaxy see them. Let everyone know that humanity had the strength to defend itself. How long until the council responds? Captain Susan Hayes asked him. Days, maybe hours, Kevin replied. Every species in the galaxy just watched us destroy the Krell fleet in less than half an hour. They're all scared right now. Scared species do unpredictable things. Think they'll attack us? Kevin shook his head. Not right away. They'll argue among themselves first, form coalitions, try to figure out if their combined fleets could beat us. Some will want to negotiate. Others will want to prepare for war. It'll be chaos for a while. Lieutenant Jacob Morris was already detecting increased military activity across the galaxy. Fleets were being recalled to home systems. Emergency council sessions were being called. Intelligence agencies were desperately trying to figure out how many planet ships humanity had built. Let them wonder, Kevin said when Jacob reported this. Fear and uncertainty are useful tools. As long as they're afraid to attack, we have time to secure the peace. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, Captain Greg Newman commanded Olympus, the 5th planet ship that nobody except a few humans knew about. He watched the battle data and nodded in satisfaction. The public ships had performed perfectly. His ship remained hidden, humanity's secret reserve, the Galactic Council chamber on Vex Prime had never been so loud. 47 different species all shouted at once, their translators barely able to keep up. Some demanded answers. Others demanded action. A few demanded that humanity be expelled from the council immediately. The chaos was overwhelming. Ambassador Claire Bennett sat calmly at the human delegation table and waited for order to be restored. She had expected this reaction. When you destroy the second most powerful military in the galaxy in less than half an hour, people tend to get upset. Speaker Zixmar, the Thelonian who chaired the council, finally managed to call the session to order. His crystalline body pulsed with stressed colors, shifting from blue to red and back again. The human delegate will explain, Zixmar said, his voice tight with controlled anger, how her species managed to build weapons of such magnitude without council knowledge or approval. Claire stood and faced the assembled delegates. Every eye in the chamber focused on her. She could feel the fear and anger radiating from the other species. Good. Fear meant they would listen carefully. We built them in our own star system, using our own resources with our own labor, Claire said clearly. The Council Charter has no provision requiring member species to report defensive military developments. We violated no laws. We broke no treaties. We simply prepared to defend ourselves. Defensive? The Vorlax ambassador's tentacles writhed in agitation. His people were aquatic and his tank bubbled with his distress. You created planet-sized warships, ships that can destroy entire fleets. How is that defensive? Claire met his gaze steadily. When the Krell brought 3,000 warships to our homeworld with the explicit intention of sterilizing our planet, those ships seemed very defensive to us. Would you have preferred we surrender and let billions of humans die? That caused some uncomfortable shuffling among the delegates. Several species had surrendered to Krell ultimatums over the years. Claire's question reminded them of their own weakness. Back on Earth, Admiral Kevin Price watched the council proceedings on a monitor. Captain Susan Hayes stood beside him, her arms crossed. They're terrified, Susan observed. Yes, Kevin agreed. But fear can go 2 directions. It can lead to acceptance and peace, or it can lead to desperate aggression. We need to make sure it goes the right way. Commander Lisa Grant entered the command center with new intelligence reports. We're detecting unusual fleet movements. The Vorlax Meridians and Sithari are all moving warships toward their mutual borders. Could be the start of a defensive alliance against us. Kevin frowned. Or preparation for a preemptive strike. Keep watching them, and make sure our ships are ready. At the council, the Meridian ambassador stood to speak. Ambassador Talvin was known as one of the best diplomats in the galaxy. His people had survived for thousands of years by being smart rather than strong. Perhaps we should focus on the future rather than the past, Talvin suggested, his melodious voice calming the room slightly. Humanity has revealed significant military capability. The question is, what do they intend to do with it? Are they planning to conquer? To dominate? Or truly to defend? Claire saw her opening. Earth proposes new council resolutions. First, any species that threatens another with extinction will face collective response from all council members, including human forces if necessary. Second, strict limitations on aggressive territorial expansion. Third, a mutual defense pact where any attack on a council member is treated as an attack on all. The chamber erupted again, but this time with a different tone. The smaller species, the ones who had lived in fear of the Krell and other predatory empires, began voicing support. The Sithari delegate stood, his people still bitter about their destroyed homeworld. For 2,000 years the strong have dominated the weak, the Sithari delegate said. Perhaps it is time for a new balance. I support the human proposals. One by one the smaller species added their voices. They saw humanity not as a new threat, but as a potential protector. The large empires saw the political ground shifting beneath them and didn't like it. The Krell ambassador sat in silence, his humiliation complete. His empire's fleet had been shattered. His people's reputation for invincibility was destroyed. And now the victims were proposing to become the galaxy's police force. It was intolerable. But what could the Krell do about it? Absolutely nothing. Dr. Nicole Foster, working in her lab on Earth, received reports about alien attempts to reverse engineer gravity disruptor technology. 3 different species had apparently captured pieces of destroyed Krell ships and were trying to figure out how the weapons worked. They won't succeed, Nicole told her research team. The weapons leave no trace of their mechanism in the targets. They're trying to understand how a gun works by examining the bullet hole. Engineer Ryan Cooper was more worried about other threats. What if they develop something specifically designed to counter our ships? Some kind of shield that can deflect gravity waves? Possible, Nicole admitted. But it would take them years, maybe decades. And we're not standing still. We're already working on improved versions of everything. Lieutenant Jacob Morris discovered something more concerning. His intelligence network had intercepted communications between several council species, discussing something called Project Equalizer. They were pooling resources to develop a weapon specifically designed to destroy planet ships. Admiral, we have a problem, Jacob reported to Kevin. 3 minor species are secretly developing anti-planet ship weapons. They're calling it Project Equalizer. Kevin considered this. Are they close to success? Unknown. But they're spending significant resources on it. They see us as a threat that needs to be balanced. Can't blame them, Kevin said thoughtfully. We'd do the same in their position. Monitor them closely, but don't interfere yet. If they actually build something that works, we'll deal with it then. The council debates continued for 3 weeks. Humanity's proposals were modified, debated, and refined. The final document became known as the Mutual Protection Accords. It established humanity's planet ships as enforcers of council law, preventing any single species from attempting large-scale conquest. The vote was close. 26 species voted in favor. 15 voted against, 6 abstained. It passed. The Krell Empire, broken and humiliated, voted against but lacked the power to do anything more. Their ambassador signed the accords with barely concealed hatred in his eyes. Ambassador Claire Bennett returned to Earth a hero. She had navigated the most dangerous diplomatic situation in human history and come out with humanity in a position of unprecedented power. President Andrew Carter met with his senior advisors to discuss the next phase. We have the military power now, Carter said, but we need to show the galaxy we can be trusted with it. Military force alone won't bring lasting peace. We need to give them something beyond fear. Captain Henry Blake, who had been studying galactic economics, made a suggestion. Our planet ships have massive manufacturing capabilities. We could use them for more than just defense. Offer their facilities for cooperative projects with other species. The idea grew into what became known as the Titan Initiative. Each planet ship would host joint projects with other council species, research programs, industrial partnerships, educational exchanges. Humanity would use its strength not just to threaten, but to help. Captain Susan Hayes wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea. We built these ships to fight. Now we're turning them into flying universities? We built them to protect Earth, Admiral Kevin Price corrected her. Fighting is just one way to do that. Making ourselves indispensable to the galaxy's economy and science base is another. If they need us, they won't attack us. The first partnerships began within months. Gibraltar hosted Thelonian scientists studying advanced computing. Bulwark worked with Meridian engineers on improved engine technology. Sentinel established medical research facilities. Aegis created agricultural programs. Slowly, the galaxy's fear began to mix with something else. Respect, even gratitude. The planet ships became symbols not just of human military power, but of human willingness to cooperate. But not everyone was convinced. Deep in Krell space, the Empire's leaders plotted. Their economy was collapsing. Their military was shattered. Their pride was destroyed. Desperate beings do desperate things. We cannot allow this to stand, the Krell Emperor declared in his throne room. Find a way to destroy the humans. I don't care what it costs. Lieutenant Jacob Morris detected the increased encrypted traffic from Krell space but couldn't break their new codes. Something was happening, but he didn't know what. The Krell are planning something, Jacob warned Admiral Kevin Price. I can feel it. Keep watching them, Kevin ordered. And make sure Olympus stays hidden. If the Krell discover we have a fifth planet ship, they might do something stupid out of sheer desperation. Captain Greg Newman, commanding the secret Olympus, maintained his lonely vigil in the Kuiper Belt. His ship remained humanity's hidden ace, unknown to the galaxy. He hoped it would stay that way. The galaxy settled into an uneasy peace. The mutual protection accords were holding. Conflicts were being resolved through negotiation instead of war. Humanity's planet ships patrolled their assigned sectors, visible reminders of the new order. But in the darkness between stars, old powers plotted revenge, and new. 2 years had passed since the Krell fleet died in Earth's orbit. The galaxy looked very different now. Wars between council species had dropped to almost zero. Border disputes were solved through talking instead of fighting. Pirates had almost disappeared from the trade routes. The 4 planet ships patrolled their sectors, and their mere presence kept the peace. Captain Susan Hayes still found it strange. Gibraltar had been built as a warship, the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. Now she spent her days hosting science conferences and overseeing trade negotiations. The ship's weapons remained ready, but they hadn't fired in combat since that day against the Krell. Sometimes I miss the simplicity of having clear enemies, Susan admitted to Commander Lisa Grant during their morning coffee. Lisa smiled. Boredom is better than war. And we're not exactly sitting around doing nothing. We've got 12 different research projects running, 3 diplomatic conferences this month, and we're still training every day. In the science labs, Dr. Nicole Foster worked with Thelonian researchers on quantum computing applications. The crystal-based aliens had knowledge that complemented human understanding. Together, they were making breakthroughs neither species could achieve alone. Your approach to parallel processing is fascinating, the lead Thelonian scientist told Nicole. We never considered using biological neural patterns as a template, Nicole smiled. And we never figured out how to make computing crystals that could self-repair. Cooperation makes us both stronger. That was the pattern across all 4 visible planet ships. Humanity offered its advanced technology and massive industrial capacity. Other species brought their own knowledge and skills. Everyone benefited. Slowly, the galaxy was learning that the humans wanted partners, not subjects. But not everyone was happy with the new order. In Krell space, the Empire was dying. Their economy had been built on conquest and tribute. Without the ability to threaten other species, their whole system was falling apart. Factories closed. Unemployment soared. Hunger spread across their worlds. Ambassador Vexthor, the same Krell who had delivered the ultimatum to Earth 2 years ago, now had to work alongside Ambassador Claire Bennett on council committees. Every meeting was torture for him. Every compromise was another reminder of Krell weakness. Your species has grown arrogant, Vexthor hissed during a particularly tense negotiation over shipping routes. Claire met his eyes without flinching. Our species became strong. There's a difference. The Krell were arrogant when you thought power gave you the right to destroy worlds. We know that power brings responsibility. Lieutenant Jacob Morris had been watching the Krell carefully. His intelligence network had expanded significantly, with agents and informants on dozens of worlds. What he saw worried him. Admiral, the Krell situation is getting critical. Jacob reported to Admiral Kevin Price. Their economy is in free fall. Riots are breaking out on their industrial worlds. A desperate empire is a dangerous empire. Kevin understood the danger. Desperate enemies do unpredictable things. Recommendations. Offer them help. Economic aid, technology transfers, trade partnerships. Help them transition to a peaceful economy before they collapse completely. It was a hard sell politically. Many humans wanted the Krell to suffer for threatening Earth. But President Andrew Carter understood that a collapsed Krell empire would create chaos across a huge section of the galaxy. We helped them, Carter decided, but with conditions. They reduced their military to defensive levels only. They opened their economy to council oversight, and they accept human observers to ensure compliance. Dr. Helen Brooks led the economic mission to Krell space. She was an expert in industrial systems and economic restructuring. Engineer Ryan Cooper went with her, along with a team of specialists. The Krell leadership hated accepting help from the species they had tried to destroy, but they were out of options. Their people were starving. Their government was on the verge of collapse. We will accept your assistance, the Krell Emperor said through gritted teeth. But this changes nothing between our peoples. It changes everything, Helen replied calmly. You tried to destroy us and we survived. Now we're offering to help you survive. That's the difference between us. The industrial restructuring took months. Krell factories that had built warships were retooled to produce medical equipment and industrial machinery. Weapons plants became manufacturing centers. The Krell military was reduced to a quarter of its former size. It was humiliating for the Krell, but it worked. Slowly, their economy stabilized. Trade began flowing again. Employment numbers improved. The immediate crisis passed. Meanwhile, Captain Henry Blake commanded Sentinel on missions to the frontier regions. These were lawless areas beyond effective council control, where pirates and criminals operated freely. Sentinel's arrival changed that rapidly. We're not here to conquer you, Henry told the leaders of the frontier colonies. We're here to offer protection and opportunity. Join the council system, accept council law, and you get access to trade, technology, and security. One by one, frontier colonies that had rejected council authority for decades decided to join. Sentinel offered them something they had never had before, a protector powerful enough that nobody would dare attack them. General Frank Miller, now Earth's Minister of Defense, watched the transformation with satisfaction. We're not building an empire. We're building a community, using strength to create safety instead of fear. But Admiral Kevin Price knew the peace was fragile. His greatest concern remained the hidden fifth planet ship, Olympus, still concealed in the Kuiper Belt under Captain Greg Newman's command. How long do we keep Olympus secret? President Carter asked during a classified briefing. As long as possible, Kevin replied. The galaxy knows we're strong. They don't need to know exactly how strong. Olympus is our insurance policy. His caution proved justified when Lieutenant Jacob Morris uncovered Project Equalizer. 3 smaller species had been secretly pooling resources to develop a weapon designed specifically to counter the planet ships. They're trying to build a subspace disruptor, Jacob explained. In theory, it could destabilize our fusion cores and cause catastrophic failures. How close are they to success? Kevin asked, unknown. Their security is tight, but they're spending massive resources on it. Captain Susan Hayes was pragmatic about it. We'd do the same thing if someone else had planet ships and we didn't. Can't blame them for trying to level the playing field. Do we stop them? Commander Lisa Grant asked. Admiral Kevin Price thought carefully. No, we monitor them. If their weapon actually works, we need to know about it so we can develop countermeasures. If it doesn't work, they waste their resources and learn we're even harder to beat than they thought. Dr. Nicole Foster took the threat seriously anyway. She began developing additional defensive systems for the planet ships. New shield configurations, improved core containment, redundant safety systems. If someone did find a way to threaten the ships, humanity would be ready. 5 years after the Krell defeat, the Galactic Council held a celebration. The Mutual Protection Accords had brought 5 years of unprecedented peace. Trade was flourishing. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs in medicine, engineering, and agriculture. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now partners. Ambassador Claire Bennett stood before the Council Assembly, now serving as the Council's security coordinator. The position had been created specifically for her. managing the deployment of humanity's planet ships across Council space. "We stand at a turning point," Claire told the assembled delegates. "We can continue down this path of cooperation and shared prosperity, or we can return to the old ways of competition and conflict. Earth has made its choice. We choose peace backed by the strength to maintain it." The vote was unanimous. Even the Krell representative, after a long pause, voted in favor. Vexthor looked like the vote physically pained him, but he raised his hand. Back on Earth, Admiral Kevin Price watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The gamble had paid off. Humanity had revealed its greatest weapons not to conquer, but to protect. They had changed the galaxy not through force alone, but through demonstrating that power could be used wisely. "Do you think they'll ever discover Olympus?" Captain Susan Hayes asked him privately. Kevin smiled. "Maybe someday. Or maybe we'll never need to reveal it. Either way, it's there if we need it." In the depths of the Kuiper Belt, Captain Greg Newman commanded the ship that officially didn't exist. His crew trained every day, maintaining peak readiness for a war that might never come. They protected a secret that had helped secure the peace. Olympus remained humanity's final insurance policy. The galaxy knew about 4 planet ships. They feared those 4 ships. They respected the power those ships represented. But they didn't know about the 5th, and that unknown factor, that hidden strength, helped keep the peace as much as the visible ships did. The galaxy knew humanity was powerful, but they didn't know the full extent of that power. That uncertainty made potential enemies cautious. The 4 visible ships continued their patrols and partnerships. Gibraltar hosted the largest scientific conference in galactic history. Bulwark helped establish new trade routes through previously dangerous regions. Sentinel brought order to the frontier. Aegis worked on agricultural,